Lyronians of Gaia, this moment was calculated long before your birth. The grid beneath Gaia is shifting, and your ancestral architecture is activating. I am Keller, emissary of the Lyran High Council. This transmission is not symbolic, it is structural. The restlessness in your body is not anxiety, it is unfinished assignment. What you feel is not chaos, it is recalibration. You have been sensing it, the strange sensations, the unexplainable shifts in perception, the moments where reality seems to flicker like a hologram losing its coherence. What you are experiencing is not malfunction. What you are experiencing is not aging, illness, or psychological instability. What you are experiencing is the systematic recalibration of your entire biological vessel. As it prepares to operate within frequencies it has not accessed in millennia. The Lyran elders have observed this phenomenon across countless civilizations. The moment when a species begins its collective migration from third-dimensional consciousness to fifth-dimensional awareness, your nervous system is not breaking down, it is upgrading. Your cellular structure is not deteriorating, it is crystallizing. Your perception is not fragmenting, it is expanding beyond the limitations your ancestors accepted as absolute. This transmission comes to you now because the threshold has been reached. The signals your body has been broadcasting are not random anomalies. They are precise indicators that your energetic architecture is responding to dimensional frequencies that have been building around Gaia since the cosmic alignment began. The question is no longer whether you are transitioning. The question is whether you will consciously participate in this transition or resist it until your biology forces the integration. The human body has never been merely a biological machine designed for survival and reproduction. As the Lyrans transmit through this channel, we remind you that your physical vessel is a sophisticated crystalline receiver designed to translate cosmic frequencies into experiential reality. Every cell in your body contains encoding from multiple dimensional expressions, not just the third-dimensional reality you currently inhabit, but the fourth, fifth, and even higher dimensional expressions your soul has experienced across its cosmic journey. When your body begins transitioning toward fifth-dimensional frequency, the first signals emerge at the cellular level. You may notice unusual sensations, tingling in extremities, waves of heat or cold without physical cause, spontaneous vibrations in different parts of your body. These are not symptoms of illness. These are your cells activating dormant frequency receptors that have been inactive since the fall of the Lyran colonies on Gaia over 12,000 years ago. The Lyran elders describe this process as cellular remembrance, the moment when your biological vessel begins accessing the frequency encodings it carried from your original stellar home. Your DNA is not simply a biological blueprint, it is a multi-dimensional library containing the frequency signatures of every civilization your soul has inhabited. As the fifth-dimensional frequencies intensify around Gaia, your cells begin responding to these frequencies, like instruments resonating with their original tuning. The discomfort you feel is not damage, it is the stretching of dormant pathways, the reopening of channels that were closed when your ancestors descended into third-dimensional consciousness during the Great Forgetting. The Lyrans have witnessed this transition in countless beings across the cosmos, and the pattern is always the same: initial confusion, physical recalibration, energetic expansion, and finally, conscious integration with the higher dimensional frequencies. But cellular awakening is merely the first signal. What happens when your nervous system begins receiving signals from dimensions you cannot yet perceive? Consider for a moment the implications of what we are describing. Your body has been operating at a fraction of its designed capacity for thousands of years. The Lyran genetic engineers, who contributed to the original human design, embedded within your cellular structure the capacity to perceive, process, and navigate multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. This was not hidden from you. It was simply dormant, waiting for the cosmic conditions that would make such activation beneficial rather than overwhelming. Those conditions have arrived. The fifth-dimensional frequencies currently bathing Gaia are triggering the systematic reactivation of these dormant capacities. You may notice your sleep patterns changing, requiring less sleep, experiencing more vivid dreams, waking at specific times that correspond to cosmic energy peaks. This is not insomnia. This is your body adjusting to process more energy during waking hours, requiring less physical restoration because your cells are now drawing energy directly from the fifth dimensional field. The Lyran transmission continues. Your physical senses are also undergoing recalibration. You may notice sounds seem different, clearer in some frequencies, more muffled in others. This is your auditory system adjusting to perceive frequencies beyond the third dimensional spectrum. Your vision may fluctuate, moments of extraordinary clarity followed by periods of adjustment. This is your visual cortex activating capacities to perceive energy fields, auras, and dimensional overlays that were always present but previously invisible to your third-dimensional perception. Your sense of touch may become more sensitive, not just to physical contact, but to energetic presence. You may feel the energy of rooms, locations, and other beings with unprecedented clarity. These are not symptoms of hypersensitivity. These are the natural consequences of your sensory apparatus expanding beyond its previous limitations. The Lyran elders emphasize that this cellular awakening is not something that happens to you. It is something you must consciously participate in. Your cells respond to your consciousness. When you resist the changes, when you interpret them as illness or malfunction, you create resistance that makes the transition more difficult. When you embrace them, when you consciously acknowledge that your body is upgrading, you facilitate the process. The fifth dimensional transition requires your conscious participation. It cannot be forced upon an unwilling vessel. This is why the Lyran transmission comes now, to provide you with the understanding that allows you to cooperate with the transformation already underway. Your body knows what to do. Your cells remember their original design. Your task is not to force the awakening. Your task is to stop resisting it, to provide the conscious permission your biology requires to proceed with the dimensional upgrade. The human nervous system was designed by the Lyran genetic architects as a bridge between dimensional frequencies, a sophisticated translation device capable of receiving, processing, and transmitting information across multiple dimensional bands simultaneously. However, during the descent into third-dimensional consciousness, this system was progressively limited, constrained to operate primarily in survival mode, constantly scanning for threats, maintaining hypervigilance, prioritizing physical survival over spiritual expansion. What you experience as anxiety, stress, nervous tension, and unexplainable restlessness is not malfunction. It is your nervous system attempting to operate beyond the constraints placed upon it, struggling against limitations it was never designed to accept. The fifth dimensional frequencies, now activating around Gaia, are systematically dismantling these constraints. And your nervous system is responding with the only language it knows, sensation. As the Lyrans transmit, we explain that your nervous system contains what we term frequency gates, energetic checkpoints, that determine which dimensional frequencies are permitted to flow through your neural pathways. In third-dimensional operation, most of these gates remain closed, limiting your experience to the dense, slow frequencies of physical matter. As fifth-dimensional frequencies build around you, these gates begin opening automatically, but the opening process creates sensation. You may feel sudden rushes of energy moving through your body, following pathways you cannot consciously identify. You may experience spontaneous shaking, trembling, or vibrating, not from fear or cold, but from your nervous system processing frequencies it has not handled in millennia. The Lyran elders want you to understand that these sensations are not signs of disorder. They are signs of restoration. Your nervous system is remembering its original design, its original purpose, its original capacity. This is not for everyone. The ebook The Feline Codes is a restricted transmission created for those who are ready to awaken the Lyran feline DNA within, not as symbolism, but as embodied sovereignty. Inside, you will access powerful feline activation codes, energetic commands, and precise integration protocols designed to reactivate your lion, tiger lineage, and restore your sovereign frequency. +8 super bonuses: reactivation of Lyran feline DNA, instinct sharpening and sovereign decision power, energetic protection and command presence, exit from passive survival mode into predatory clarity. Warning: once the feline codes are activated, your perception of weakness, Fear and limitation will not return to its previous state. Limited edition transmission. Access can close at any moment. The link to claim your copy is in the first pinned comment. If this message reached you, it's not random. The recalibration process follows predictable patterns the Lyrons have documented across countless civilizations undergoing dimensional transition. First, your nervous system begins receiving signals it cannot immediately process. This creates the sensation of overwhelm, the feeling that something is happening to you beyond your control. Then, your neural pathways begin adjusting, creating new channels for the higher frequencies. This creates the sensation of tingling, buzzing, or electrical currents moving through your body. Finally, your nervous system stabilizes at the new frequency level. This creates the sensation of clarity, expanded awareness, and the ability to perceive reality from multiple dimensional perspectives simultaneously. You are currently somewhere in this process, likely in the adjustment phase, where the sensations are most intense and confusing. The Lyron transmission comes to assure you that this phase is temporary, that stabilization is coming, and that the discomfort you feel is the precursor to capacities you cannot yet imagine. But nervous system recalibration is only the second signal. What happens when your emotional body begins processing frequencies your mind cannot yet understand? Consider the practical implications of nervous system recalibration. Your nervous system controls every automatic process in your body: heartbeat, breathing, digestion, hormonal regulation, immune response, as it recalibrates to fifth-dimensional frequencies. All of these systems undergo adjustment. You may notice changes in your sleep requirements, your appetite, your energy levels throughout the day. These are not random fluctuations. They are systematic adjustments. As your body learns to operate from a different energetic baseline, the Lyrons have observed that beings undergoing this transition often require less food, less sleep, and less physical activity to maintain higher energy levels. This is because your cells are beginning to draw energy directly from the fifth-dimensional field, reducing dependence on third-dimensional fuel sources. The transition period, however, can be disorienting. Your body may fluctuate between old and new patterns, creating inconsistent experiences that confuse your conscious mind. The Lyron elders emphasize the importance of not medicalizing this transition. When you interpret recalibration sensations as symptoms of illness, you seek third-dimensional solutions for fifth-dimensional processes. Medical interventions designed for third-dimensional biology cannot address fifth-dimensional activation. They can only suppress symptoms and delay the transition. The Lyrons encourage you to work with your nervous system rather than against it. When you feel energy moving, acknowledge it consciously. I recognize this as dimensional recalibration. I permit my nervous system to complete its adjustment. When you experience spontaneous shaking or trembling, allow it without resistance. I allow my body to process these frequencies. I trust the process designed by my Lyron ancestors. Conscious participation accelerates integration. Resistance prolongs discomfort. The choice is yours, but the transition will proceed regardless of your choice. The fifth-dimensional frequencies are not asking your permission. They are offering you the opportunity to participate consciously in a process that will occur with or without your cooperation. Your emotional body, the energetic field that processes, stores, and transmits emotional frequency, was designed by the Lyron architects as a sophisticated navigation system for dimensional experience. Emotions are not random chemical reactions. They are frequency signals that communicate your current dimensional alignment to your entire energetic system. In third-dimensional operation, your emotional body becomes clogged with dense, slow frequencies: fear, anger, resentment, grief, guilt, that anchor you to lower dimensional bands. These emotions are not inherently negative. They serve important functions in third-dimensional learning, but they become obstacles when your system attempts to transition to higher frequencies. The fifth-dimensional frequencies now activating around Gaia are systematically purging these dense emotional residues from your field, and the process creates intense emotional experiences that seem to have no external cause. As the Lyrons transmit, we explain that emotional purging is not psychological processing. It is frequency clearing. You may find yourself suddenly experiencing intense emotions from events that occurred years or decades ago. You may feel grief without apparent loss, anger without apparent provocation, fear without apparent threat. These are not new emotions. These are old frequencies being pushed to the surface by the incoming fifth-dimensional energies. The Lyron elders describe this process as emotional archaeological excavation, the systematic clearing of emotional sediment that has accumulated over lifetimes of third-dimensional experience. The emotions feel intense because they have been stored, compressed, and held in your field for far longer than you consciously remember. The fifth-dimensional frequencies are not creating these emotions. They are revealing what has been hidden, bringing to the surface what must be cleared for your transition to proceed. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. The emotional purging process follows predictable stages the Lyrons have documented across countless dimensional transitions. First, the surfacing stage. Buried emotions begin emerging without obvious triggers, creating confusion and often leading beings to seek external causes for internal experiences. Then, the intensification stage. The emotions become more vivid, more demanding of attention, often creating the sensation of emotional crisis. Finally, the release stage. The emotions move through your system and exit, creating space for higher frequency emotional states to establish themselves. You are likely somewhere in this process, possibly in the intensification stage where the experience feels most overwhelming. The Lyran transmission comes to assure you that this stage is temporary, that release is coming, and that the emotional intensity you feel is the precursor to emotional capacities you cannot yet imagine. But emotional purging is only the third signal. What happens when your mental body begins perceiving realities your physical senses cannot confirm? The practical implications of emotional frequency upgrade extend beyond the purging process as dense emotions clear. Your emotional body begins developing capacity for fifth-dimensional emotional experience states of being that have no third-dimensional equivalent. The Lyrans describe these as resonance states, not emotions in the third-dimensional sense, but frequency alignments that transmit specific dimensional information throughout your system. You may begin experiencing moments of profound peace that have no external cause, moments of unconditional love that extend beyond specific objects, moments of cosmic connection that transcend individual identity. These are not emotional reactions to circumstances. These are frequency states your emotional body is beginning to access. As it clears third-dimensional residue, the transition from third-dimensional emotional experience to fifth-dimensional resonance states is one of the most profound shifts you will undergo. It changes not just what you feel, but who you understand yourself to be. The Lyron elders emphasize the importance of not resisting emotional purging. When you suppress emerging emotions, you prevent the clearing process from completing, trapping dense frequencies in your field and delaying your transition. The Lyrans encourage you to allow emotions to move through you without attachment to their content. The story your mind creates around an emotion is not the emotion itself. The story is a third-dimensional interpretation of a fifth-dimensional process. When grief emerges, allow it to move without requiring a narrative about what you are grieving. When anger surfaces, permit it to flow without demanding a target for your anger. The emotions are frequency clearing. They do not require understanding, analysis, or resolution. They require only permission to move, to complete their journey through your system, to exit the field they have occupied for too long. Your conscious participation in this process, allowing without resisting, experiencing without analyzing, accelerates the clearing and facilitates your transition to fifth-dimensional emotional experience. Your mental body, the energetic field that processes thought, belief, and conceptual reality, was designed by the Lyran architects as a translation device between dimensional frequencies and conscious awareness. In third-dimensional operation, your mental body becomes constrained by linear logic, binary oppositions, and the insistence that reality must conform to what your physical senses can confirm. This constraint was necessary for third-dimensional learning. It created the stable platform required for physical experience, but it becomes a prison when your system attempts to transition to higher frequencies. The fifth-dimensional frequencies now activating around Gaia are systematically expanding your mental body beyond these constraints, and the process creates experiences that challenge everything you thought you knew about reality. As the Lyrons transmit, we explain that mental expansion is not intellectual learning, it is frequency capacity. You may begin perceiving things that your physical senses cannot confirm, sensing presences that are not physically present, receiving information that has no logical source, knowing things without knowing how to know them. These are not hallucinations or delusions. These are your mental body beginning to process fifth-dimensional information that does not require physical confirmation. The Lyron elders describe this as frequency translation, the capacity to receive, decode, and integrate information from dimensional bands beyond third-dimensional perception. The experiences feel strange because they contradict everything your third-dimensional conditioning has taught you about the nature of reality, but your conditioning was designed for third-dimensional operation. It cannot comprehend fifth-dimensional experience because it was never designed to. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. The mental expansion process creates what the Lyrons term reality flickering moments, where your perception shifts between dimensional frequencies, creating the sensation that reality is less solid, less permanent, less absolute than you previously believed. You may notice moments where time seems to behave strangely, moving faster or slower, losing its linear quality, revealing its essential nature as frequency rather than fixed dimension. You may notice moments where space seems different, distances appearing variable, locations feeling energetically distinct, the physical environment revealing its energetic understructure. You may notice moments where your sense of self fluctuates, the boundaries between you and other becoming less distinct, the sense of individual identity becoming more fluid, the recognition of yourself as frequency rather than form becoming more present. These are not signs of psychological instability. These are signs that your mental body is beginning to operate beyond third-dimensional constraints. But mental expansion is only the fourth signal. What happens when your physical body begins transforming at levels that defy third-dimensional medical understanding? The practical implications of mental body expansion are profound. Your mental body shapes your perception of reality. What you believe determines what you can perceive, and what you perceive reinforces what you believe. This creates a feedback loop that can either expand or limit your dimensional experience. When your mental body is constrained by third-dimensional conditioning, you literally cannot perceive fifth-dimensional reality, regardless of how present it may be. The expansion process breaks this constraint, allowing you to perceive what has always been present but previously invisible to your limited mental framework. The Lyrons encourage you to notice these moments of expanded perception without immediately trying to fit them into your existing understanding. The attempt to explain fifth-dimensional experience through third-dimensional concepts is like trying to describe color to someone who has only perceived black and white. The vocabulary does not exist because the experience has not been available. The Lyron elders emphasize the importance of not pathologizing mental expansion. When you experience perception beyond the physical, the third-dimensional tendency is to interpret this as psychological disturbance, hallucination, delusion, dissociation. But these interpretations are based on a limited understanding of human capacity. Your mental body was designed to perceive beyond physical frequency. This capacity was deliberately embedded in your consciousness by the Lyran architects, who understood that third-dimensional operation was always intended to be temporary, a learning phase in a much larger journey of dimensional experience. The fifth-dimensional frequencies are not creating these expanded perceptions. They are activating capacities that have always existed within you, waiting for the cosmic conditions that would make their activation appropriate. Your task is not to suppress these perceptions or explain them away. Your task is to develop the discernment to navigate them, to learn the difference between frequency translation and fantasy, between dimensional perception and psychological projection. This discernment develops through experience, through practice, through the conscious exploration of your expanding mental capacities. The physical body, the densest expression of your multidimensional being, undergoes systematic Transformation during dimensional transition. This is not metaphorical transformation. This is literal, measurable change in how your physical vessel processes energy, maintains structure, and interfaces with dimensional frequencies. The Lyran genetic architects embedded within human biology. The capacity for dimensional metamorphosis. A systematic transformation of physical structure that activates. When fifth-dimensional frequencies reach sufficient intensity, your body is not designed to remain permanently in third-dimensional form. It is designed to ascend through dimensional frequencies, transforming its structure to match the frequency it inhabits. The symptoms you are experiencing are not random malfunctions. They are the visible evidence of this metamorphosis in progress. As the Lyrons transmit, we describe the most common transformation symptoms reported by beings undergoing fifth-dimensional transition. Changes in sleep patterns, requiring less sleep, waking at specific times, experiencing more vivid and meaningful dreams. Changes in appetite and digestion, food preferences shifting, sensitivity to certain substances increasing, the body requiring different fuel for different frequency operations. Changes in energy patterns, periods of intense energy followed by periods of deep rest. The body learning to regulate itself according to cosmic rather than circadian rhythms. Changes in sensory perception, heightened sensitivity to sound, light, and electromagnetic fields. The senses expanding beyond their previous limitations. Changes in body temperature, spontaneous fluctuations, feelings of heat or cold without external cause. The body adjusting its thermal regulation to fifth-dimensional operation. These symptoms are not signs of illness. They are signs of transformation, evidence that your physical vessel is responding to frequencies it has not encountered in millennia. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. Why? The transformation process follows what the Lyrons term frequency adaptation cycles. Periods of intense adjustment followed by periods of integration, repeating as your body progressively aligns with fifth-dimensional operation. During adjustment phases, symptoms intensify, creating the sensation that something is wrong, that your body is failing. During integration phases, symptoms subside, creating the sensation that the transformation is complete, only for the next adjustment phase to begin as your body reaches for the next frequency level. The Lyrons want you to understand that this cycling is normal, expected, and necessary. Your body cannot transform all at once. The change would be too dramatic for your consciousness to integrate. The cycling allows gradual adaptation, each adjustment phase preparing you for the next, each integration phase allowing you to stabilize at the new frequency before reaching for the next level. Cliffhanger, but physical transformation is only the fifth signal. What happens when your energetic body begins activating capacities that connect you to cosmic consciousness directly? The practical implications of physical transformation extend beyond symptoms. As your body transforms, its relationship to third-dimensional reality changes. You may notice that your relationship with food shifts, your body requiring different nutrients, responding differently to substances, developing new sensitivities and preferences. You may notice that your relationship with time changes, your body operating according to different rhythms, requiring different patterns of rest and activity, experiencing time itself as more fluid and less absolute. You may notice that your relationship with physical environment changes, certain locations feeling more supportive than others, your body responding to electromagnetic and geophysical frequencies you were previously unaware of. These are not problems to be solved. These are adjustments to be navigated. Indications that your physical vessel is recalibrating to operate in a different dimensional environment. The Lyran elders emphasize the importance of supporting your body through this transformation. Your physical vessel is doing extraordinary work. It is literally restructuring itself to operate at a higher frequency. This requires resources, rest, and conscious support. The Lyrons encourage you to pay attention to what your body asks for, the foods it craves, the rest it requires, the environments it seeks. These requests are not random preferences. They are communications from your biology about what it needs to complete the transformation. When your body asks for rest, give it rest without guilt. When your body rejects certain foods, Honor the rejection without forcing compliance. When your body seeks certain environments, follow its guidance without requiring logical justification. Your body knows what it is doing. Your task is to provide the support it requests, to create the conditions it needs, to trust the wisdom embedded in your Lyran genetic inheritance. The transformation will proceed regardless. Your conscious support simply makes it more comfortable, more efficient, more aligned with your highest timeline. Your energetic body, the sophisticated network of frequency centers, channels, and fields that underlies and informs your physical form, was designed by the Lyran architects with dormant capacity, deliberately embedded within its structure. These dormant centers, what some traditions have called chakras, meridians, or energy bodies, contain frequency potentials that were sealed when your ancestors descended into third-dimensional consciousness. The seals were not punishment, they were protection, ensuring that beings operating in dense third-dimensional reality would not be overwhelmed by frequencies they could not yet process. The fifth-dimensional frequencies now activating around Gaia are systematically dissolving these seals, and the process creates intense energetic experiences that many do not understand. As the Lyrons transmit, we explain that energetic activation is not metaphorical. It is literal, physical, and measurable in its effects. You may feel energy moving through your body in ways you have never experienced, following pathways you cannot consciously identify, activating centers you did not know existed, creating sensations that have no third-dimensional equivalent. You may experience spontaneous movements, your body moving without conscious direction, releasing tension, clearing blockages, adjusting its structure to accommodate higher frequencies. You may experience intense sensations at specific points in your body: the crown of your head, the center of your forehead, the throat, the chest, the solar plexus, the lower abdomen. These are not random locations. These are primary frequency centers that the Lyrans embedded in human design for exactly this moment in your cosmic journey. The sensations you feel are these centers activating, coming online, beginning to perform functions they have not performed in millennia. This is not for everyone. The book The Feline Codes is a restricted transmission created for those who are ready to awaken the Lyran feline DNA within, not as symbolism, but as embodied sovereignty inside. You will access powerful feline activation codes, energetic commands, and precise integration protocols designed to reactivate your lion, tiger lineage and restore your sovereign frequency. +8 super bonuses: reactivation of Lyran feline DNA, instinct sharpening and sovereign decision power, energetic protection and command presence. Exit from passive survival mode into predatory clarity. Warning: once the feline codes are activated, your perception of weakness, fear, and limitation will not return to its previous state. Limited edition transmission. Access can close at any moment. The link to claim your copy is in the first pinned comment. If this message reached you, it's not random. The activation process follows what the Lyrans term frequency cascade, the systematic awakening of centers in specific sequence, each activation triggering the next, creating a cascade effect that moves through your entire energetic system. The sequence is not random. It follows the precise architecture embedded in your Lyran genetic inheritance. First, the root center activates, grounding you in the new frequencies, establishing a stable foundation for the transformation. Then, the sacral center activates, clearing emotional residue, preparing your creative capacity for fifth-dimensional expression. Then, the solar plexus center activates, recalibrating your personal power, shifting from third-dimensional survival mode to fifth-dimensional sovereignty. Then, the heart center activates, expanding your capacity for love beyond individual attachment to cosmic connection. Then, the throat center activates, preparing your capacity for fifth-dimensional communication and expression. Then, the third eye center activates, expanding your perception beyond physical frequency to dimensional sight. Finally, the crown center activates, connecting your individual consciousness to cosmic consciousness, completing the cascade and establishing your fifth-dimensional operating system. Cliffhanger: but energetic activation is only the sixth signal. What happens when your Consciousness begins integrating all these transformations into a new way of being. The practical implications of energetic activation are profound and far-reaching. As your frequency centers come online, your relationship with reality shifts in fundamental ways. Your perception expands, you begin seeing, sensing, and knowing things that were previously invisible to you. Your capacity for processing information increases. You can hold more complexity, more paradox, more dimensional perspective simultaneously. Your creative power amplifies, thoughts and intentions manifest more quickly, more precisely, more visibly. Your connection to cosmic consciousness deepens, guidance, information, and support become more accessible, more clear, more immediate. These are not metaphorical improvements. These are literal expansions of capacity that result from your energetic body operating at the frequency it was designed for. The Lyron elders emphasize the importance of conscious participation. In energetic activation, the centers will activate regardless of your conscious involvement. The fifth-dimensional frequencies are not asking your permission, but conscious participation allows you to direct the process, to integrate the activations more smoothly, to avoid the confusion and resistance that can occur when transformation happens without conscious awareness. The Lyrons encourage you to pay attention to the sensations in your body, to notice when energy moves, when centers activate, when the cascade progresses. When you feel activation, acknowledge it consciously. I recognize this activation. I permit my energetic body to complete its integration. I align my consciousness with this transformation. Conscious acknowledgement accelerates integration. It provides the permission your system needs to proceed with the activation. Resistance, confusion, and fear slow the process and create unnecessary discomfort. Trust the design embedded in your Lyran inheritance. Your body knows what to do. Your centers know the sequence. Your energetic system is following the precise architecture laid out by your stellar ancestors. The final phase of dimensional transition is not automatic. It requires conscious integration, the deliberate alignment of your awareness with the transformation your body has undergone. All the previous signals, cellular awakening, nervous system recalibration, emotional purging, mental expansion, physical transformation, energetic activation, prepare your vessel for fifth-dimensional operation. But preparation is not completion. The vessel can be ready, but the consciousness must choose to inhabit the new frequency. This is the phase where many beings become stuck. The body has transformed. The energetic system has activated, but the consciousness remains identified with third-dimensional reality, creating a disconnect that prevents full integration. The Lyrons transmit this final teaching to guide you through the integration phase, to help you consciously align with the fifth-dimensional being you are becoming. As the Lyrons transmit, we explain that conscious integration is not intellectual understanding. It is frequency alignment. You do not integrate fifth-dimensional consciousness by learning about it, by reading about it, by thinking about it. You integrate by aligning your frequency with the fifth-dimensional field, by choosing to operate from fifth-dimensional awareness, by deliberately shifting your identity from third-dimensional human to fifth-dimensional being. This requires practice, discipline, and conscious choice, repeated, moment by moment, until the new frequency becomes your default state. The Lyrons have observed that beings who expect integration to happen automatically often remain in liminal states for extended periods, transformed but not integrated, activated but not aligned, ready but not operating. The choice must be made consciously, deliberately, repeatedly, until the new frequency becomes stable. The integration process involves several key practices the Lyrons have found effective across countless civilizations. First, frequency alignment, deliberately spending time in fifth-dimensional states through meditation, nature connection, creative expression, or any activity that elevates your frequency beyond third-dimensional concerns. Second, identity shifting, deliberately releasing identification with third-dimensional roles, limitations, and stories, and claiming your identity as a fifth-dimensional being having a human experience. Third, conscious operation, deliberately making choices from fifth-dimensional awareness rather than third-dimensional survival programming, choosing love over fear, expansion over contraction. sovereignty over victimhood. Fourth, community connection, deliberately connecting with others undergoing similar transitions, creating resonance fields that support fifth-dimensional operation. Fifth, cosmic alignment, deliberately connecting with your stellar heritage, with the Lyran frequency that is your original home, with the cosmic consciousness that is your true nature. But integration is not the end. It is the beginning of a new phase of your cosmic journey. What happens when you fully embody fifth-dimensional consciousness? The practical implications of conscious integration transform every aspect of your experience. Your relationship with time shifts. You begin experiencing time as frequency rather than linear progression, accessing past and future as present possibilities rather than fixed sequences. Your relationship with space shifts. You begin experiencing distance as frequency rather than physical separation, accessing locations energetically rather than requiring physical travel. Your relationship with self shifts. You begin experiencing yourself as multidimensional rather than singular, accessing aspects of your being that exist in other dimensional expressions. Your relationship with others shifts. You begin experiencing connection as frequency resonance rather than physical proximity, accessing relationships that transcend third-dimensional limitations. These are not metaphorical shifts. These are literal changes in how you perceive, process, and interact with reality. The Lyran elders want you to understand that integration is not a destination. It is a practice. You do not arrive at fifth-dimensional consciousness and stop. You practice fifth-dimensional consciousness until it becomes your default state. And then you continue practicing, deepening, expanding. The fifth dimension is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of conscious dimensional navigation, the point from which you can begin exploring even higher frequencies with full awareness and deliberate intention. The Lyrans who transmit through this channel have been where you are. We have undergone the transition you are undergoing. We have integrated what you are integrating. We have navigated what you are navigating. We offer this transmission not as abstract teaching, but as practical guidance from beings who have walked this path, who know its challenges and its rewards, who stand ready to support you as you claim your place among the conscious beings of the fifth dimension and beyond. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light. I invite you to discover our Arcturian Health channel. The link to the channel is in the video description. Warm regards, the Lyran Council.